The UN's three-day conference in New York on the so-called two-state solution concludes today. Yesterday, representatives at the meeting issued the New York Declaration, reaffirming their unwavering support for the implementation of the so-called two-state solution and laying out what they'd like to see happen. They've also called for other nations to support their push for the so-called two-state solution, including the nation of Israel. Now, is this the same song, different dance designed to pacify the Palestinians, or is this dangerously different? Joining me now from Jerusalem to discuss this and more, Chris Mitchell, Middle East Bureau Chief at CBN News. Chris, welcome back to Washington Watch. Thanks for staying up late and joining us.
Great to be with you again, Tony.
All right, so what can you tell us about this declaration, and how is that being received there in Israel?
Well, I don't think there's much of an appetite, especially after October 7th, for any form of a Palestinian state or a two-state solution. They knew that Hamas is what they did on October 7th was the fruit of what they actually did 20 years ago, Tony, where they actually unilaterally pulled out of the Gaza Strip. I was there and watched many of the almost 9,000 Jews who had lived in the Gaza Strip for many years and actually had developed crops and fields and actually exported flowers and celery to Europe. What happened at that time is that the Israeli Prime Minister Ariel Sharon, in many ways, bullied or forced Israel to pull out of the Gaza Strip. There were many people at that time, Tony, that warned if Israel pulls out of the Gaza Strip, there would be a terrorist state to take its place. That's exactly what happened. 2 years later, Hamas took over from the Palestinian Authority and created Hamas, and the biggest terror base in the world. And that led to October 7th. So that, in a sense, was a Palestinian state for almost 18 years. So there's no appetite in Israel that would be formed once again. It says in that declaration, Tony, that it's the Palestinian Authority that they want to take over Gaza, and for many people here in Israel, they know what the Palestinian Authority has been doing for many, many years. They demonize Israel. They have a pay-to-slay program, which actually rewards terrorists who kill or maim Israelis. So for the Palestinian state, for this declaration to come out at this time is not I think, taken seriously here in Israel, that there would be any kind of a Palestinian state, especially with the Palestinian Authority, and certainly not Hamas.
So talk about Palestinian Authority versus Hamas. I mean, a lot of focus on Hamas in Gaza, but there is as much threat from terrorism in the areas under Palestinian Authority control as we've seen in past in Gaza.
Yeah, if you look at places in the quote-unquote West Bank, which is actually the biblical heartland of Israel, Judea and Samaria, places like Jenin and Tulkarem, at those places, there have been hotbeds of terrorism. And actually, side by side with the war going on in Gaza and the Seven Front War that Israel's been fighting, one of those fronts is there in Judea and Samaria. And there's been a concerted effort to root out many of these terror cells. And so it represents a danger, maybe not quite as serious as Hamas did at one time, but certainly a serious danger to those living in Judea and Samaria, or people living here in Jerusalem, where I am right now. So they, if you look at a website named the Palestinian Media Watch, Itamar Marcus, they've been documenting exactly what the Palestinian Authority has been preaching to its people, that they will one day replace Israel, that this is a jihad against the people of Israel. And once they want to not only have a two-state solution, but eventually they would prefer, they would want a one-state solution to replace the Jewish state.
So for the benefit of Israel, the Israelis, to turn control of Gaza over to the Palestinians, and at the same time calling for a second state or a two-state solution, a Palestinian state, that means Judea, portions of Judea and Samaria, which strategically, from a security standpoint, would be make Israel even more vulnerable than what having Gaza under the control of Hamas in the southern part of the country.
Yeah, if you gave up that territory, and I think it was former Foreign Minister Abba Eban who said that they would be Auschwitz borders. There would be between the Mediterranean and a so-called Palestinian state would be about 9 miles. So this is strategically, it would pose a threat to Ben Gurion Airport, to Jerusalem, to Tel Aviv itself, and much of the people that live actually on the Mediterranean coastline. I know you've been there recently. I've seen some of the footage from your visit there recently. And also, it's not only strategically, but this is the biblical heartland.
Right.
This is the heartland of the Jewish people that where Abraham was and Joshua, and where God promised the land of Israel to Abraham and his descendants forever. So it's not only strategically dangerous, but it's biblically dangerous too, if you really believe that Genesis 12, 2 and 3 says God will curse those that curse the land or divide the land.
And that would be dangerous for all those who support it as well, including the United States, if we were to go along with such a proposal. So very quickly, before we move on to the next topic, Chris Mitchell, we've been hearing this. I mean, this two-state solution goes back to, the 1940s, the late 40s, 50s. So is this the same old song, or is this potentially more dangerous given what's happening internationally as it pertains to Israel and the crisis in Gaza?
I think it's both the same old song and potentially dangerous right now, Tony, because there seems to be this tsunami, a diplomatic tsunami against the Jewish state, and it's fueled, and maybe we'll address this as well, by much of what's happening in the media. And I think the media is actually pushing countries like the UK and other countries to go ahead and declare a Palestinian state. And I think the other thing, and it's something that Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar said, Israeli Foreign Minister, that the Muslim populations in some of these countries is seemingly goading or maybe appeasing those populations by coming against Israel and then threatening to declare a Palestinian state.
Right. Yeah, I do want to address that, because there's been images that have been flashed across the TV screens and on newspapers around the world, and it's now come to light that these images, some of these children that were supposed to be the images of famine in Gaza, that in fact, one of these was taken by a Turkish state news agency and was picked up by British publications, the New York Times here in the United States. And it comes to turn out that this images of a young boy named Mohammed was the fact that he actually had other medical issues that they hid, that none of the reporters talked about. And his mom and his brother, who were cut out of the pictures, were fine. They were healthy. It was clear they were getting enough food. And so this speaks to the irresponsible nature of the media fueling this hostility toward Israel.
It seems to be going hand in hand. They're taking the word of Hamas and using some of these images, as you referred to, I think on the front page of the New York Times, that followed by, maybe millions of people. And then they did issue sort of a non-apology, explaining that, as you said, that this young boy did have extending medical issues where he looked so emaciated. But I think that really is fueling what's going on right now. And I think it's a media campaign that Hamas is running that talking about starvation in Gaza. I don't think anybody disputes the fact that there is hunger in Gaza and there's a problem of getting aid. But what happens is that much of this aid that comes into Gaza is stolen and looted by Hamas, hoarded, and then sold back to the Palestinian people at exorbitant rates. They use those to finance their war machine. On the other hand, there is an alternative called the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation that our good friend Johnny Moore is part of that, the director of that, and they are providing free food and providing, I believe, up to now 90 million meals. So it seems to be Hamas, along with the UN, that is trying to stop aid going to the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, where it bypasses what Hamas has been doing to control its population. And now with this media campaign, Let's Gone Global, talking about starvation in Gaza, it's really trying to undermine Gaza Humanitarian Foundation and demonize Israel, who is trying to get the aid into the people of Gaza, but it's been thwarted by Hamas.
So, Chris, if, as we've seen from this declaration that was put out, and of course we now have the British, we have the French saying that come September, if this is not resolved, they're going to support a two-state solution. Is this not rewarding the terrorist, Hamas, by giving, by this push for a Palestinian state after October the 7th?
It seems like it is exactly rewarding Hamas for what happened on October 7th and trying to reward Palestinian Authority and give them sort of what Hamas has done. So I think it's a very, very difficult situation. And, you know, many of these places right now, these countries that are threatening this, you have to ask yourself, what would they be doing if they were fighting the kind of war that Israel is fighting? Israel's fighting an embedded terror group, Hamas, for almost 2 years now. Many of those fighters come from tunnels. They use Palestinians as human shields. And you wonder how they would react. It seems like there's just no recognition of the difficulty of what the IDF is doing. And the IDF is not only fighting this two-front war above the ground and below the ground, and well as dealing with human shields, but they're also putting aid in to the enemy. If you can compare it to World War II, would the Allies be sending aid into Nazi Germany when they were trying to find them? Certainly you want to have compassion on the people of Gaza who are caught in the crossfire. Right. But what they're doing actually is aiding their enemy. That's why some people in Israel really don't want any aid going in, only because the young men and women there in harm's way, it puts them in a more dangerous situation.
Right, in a prolonged situation. Of course, much different than World War II because we have instant media and people are looking at this, and no one wants to see people suffer. We want to see an end to this. We just got about a minute and a half left, Chris. Today, the Prime Minister's office confirmed in a post on X that any country that truly wants to help with conducting airdrops of humanitarian aid into Gaza Strip is welcome to join Israel. So it sounds like there's more that nations can do besides pressuring and blaming Israel. They can help if they want. Any word yet as to if other countries are going to help?
Well, I know that the UAE has dropped some aid. Egypt has, I believe for the first time. But the aid by air is really just a drop in the bucket compared to what can come in by trucks. But to your point, if countries really wanted to help, they could provide aid themselves, and it can go hopefully into Gaza, not be stolen by and looted by Hamas, and given directly to the people. So it's a very, very difficult situation for Israel, trying to do the right thing by providing the aid, but being usurped and thwarted by not only Hamas, but by the UN itself.
Chris, 25 seconds left. Speaking of support from above, how can we be praying for Israel and the whole situation there right now?
Pray for the truth to come out, and that the media would tell the truth about what's happening, and that Israel can continue to stay strong to try to release all of the hostages that still remain there, and try to defeat Hamas that's trying to destroy Israel. And pray, as always, for the peace of Jerusalem.
Well, and so that the truth will come out, that's why we have you on the program today. Chris Mitchell, always great to see you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, Tony.